On this edition of Southern Newsweek, the Civil Defence Minister visits the 3,000-hectare Maniatoto fire site. Dunedin's bus users experience delays with the new B-card system. And a Dunedin mall is evacuated due to a fire in a fast food outlet. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Civil Defence Minister Pieni Henare visited the fire near Lake Pukaki, which had been burning for several days. Rain and snow helped quell the fire, but Fire and Emergency New Zealand believes it will take a while to get the fire fully extinguished.
Diggers turning over hot spots in yesterday's snow in the Mackenzie district. About 3,000 hectares of land are affected. Fire and Emergency New Zealand says there is a 31-kilometre perimeter in place. Minister for Civil Defence Pieni Henare visited the fire zone and says yesterday's weather is masking the fire's full impact.
Really surprising, the footage that I've seen, the discussions that I've had paints a very different picture, but obviously it's what we can't see that's the issue, which is why the assessment as soon as possible needs to be made about the state of the fire at the moment.
Thick cloud cover meant aerial operations were suspended yesterday. However, ground crews continued to work to confirm safety zones around property and structures, as well as containing the fire's perimeter. Property owners in the fire area are now able to access their homes. State Highway 8 has reopened to traffic, and FENZ says there is no current or expected threat to the Twizel Township or Mount Cook Village. In the Mackenzie country, the South today.
Some Dunedin buses ran late and customers have experienced problems with the new B-card system. There were multiple reports of people using the Dunedin public transport system having trouble tagging on and tagging off with the card.
A grey, drizzly day didn't seem to deter people from testing out their new B-cards on Dunedin buses. With some services delayed, Otago Regional Council Transport Manager Gary Maloney confirms there have been some teething problems.
I talked to a lady as I was coming to the office and saw her get off a bus and saw her tag off and had a wee chat with her and asked her how she found the experience, and she said it was straightforward. She did say that there had been some teething issues. There was a lady on her bus that had a wee bit of trouble tagging on.
Maloney says the first time passengers tag on, it'll take a few seconds longer to beep because the card is fully activating for the first time, which is causing minor delays. With the introduction of the B card, it's also the first day of $2 fares for adults using the card, with the ability to transfer to another bus for free.
That means you can go, for example, from Portobello all the way through with a transfer at the hub to Mosgiel or Palmerston. $2.
In the last few weeks, about 500 to 800 cards have been registered online each day. Bus travellers approached this morning shared a range of experiences.
I've got the card, but it's not been registered. It's the first time I've been on the bus and that, so I will be registering it to get it. I've got the gold card though.
It was good. There were plenty of spaces on the bus, and the B card seems to work quite well.
I think it was a little bit later than normal, but that's probably because he's having to explain to everybody what the B card is.
When I got my B card, I went up to the Green House. So they tell you register. Went in there, and well, it was all done in 5 minutes. She's got my gold card and everything. It's not a problem. You're loaded, sir, and have a nice day. Thank you very much. That'll do me.
The Regional Council says there's been a massive uptake of the B-cards in the days leading up to launch day. Close on 2,000 cards were registered over the weekend, with a similar number registered yesterday. The flat fare scheme runs until the end of this year, and then the ORC is set to decide whether to keep it or go back to zone fares. In Dunedin, the South today.
Dunedin's Meridian Mall was evacuated after a fire in the downstairs food court. Fire appliances from 2 stations were called out to attend the fire.
Fire appliances from Dunedin Central and Roslyn fire stations were called to the Meridian Mall just after 8:30 this morning after a fire erupted in a deep fryer vat at Burger King. The flames were extinguished by the in-house sprinkler system as well as staff using a fire blanket.
Yeah, there was a small fire in the vat of Burger King. It was extinguished by the sprinkler system.
Senior Station Officer Martin Hastie says the staff's application of good fire safety equipment had stopped the flames from spreading.
And then we just had to make sure it was out and do some cleaning up and salvage.
At almost the same time, other fire crews were called to a car on fire in a garage in Musselburgh. The blaze was extinguished there by firemen wearing breathing apparatus and using a hose. In Dunedin, the South Today.
For decades, music studies at the University of Otago has been taught out of the Black Sail House. Now the department has finally moved into their new state-of-the-art facility. One of the department's longest-serving academics, Associate Professor Peter Adams, has many fond memories of his quirky top-floor office.
Known as the gingerbread houses around campus, Black Sail House is one of the University of Otago's most iconic buildings. From 1983 until this week, it was the centre of the music department, and long-standing faculty member Peter Adams has many fond memories from his 31 years in the building, including pranking students.
With my office had a little crawl door through onto the other side into Ian Chapman's office, and he would ring me on the phone occasionally and say, I've got a student needs a little bit of advice, can you come over? And I'd say, I'll be right there. And I would then crawl through this little door and startle some poor student, and he'd know full well what was going to happen, of course. It was absolutely hilarious, so I'm going to miss that.
At 5 foot 11 inches, he also recalls having to duck to get through the padded throughway which connects the two houses. He estimates they've taught about 13 generations of students, many of whom have gone on to international fame, including soprano Annalise and conductor Tequin Evans.
They've all sent messages. So many students have sent little messages and stories of Sail Black House once they've heard that we're leaving, you know, fond memories of it, particularly getting lost.
Adams says while he's sad to be leaving his teaching home of the last 3 decades, he's excited to be moving into the specially designed facility.
Oh, well, it's fantastic to have. We're now a school of performing arts with music, theatre and dance. And I think we're all feeling the sort of cross-fertilisation, if you like, the feeding each other with ideas. We have a Bachelor of Performing Arts degree now, which is a degree for music, theatre, dance, and show tunes and so forth come out of the place just as much as rock or classical.
Peter Adams understands another department is set to move into their old stomping ground, and he wishes them well. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, local soprano Sophie Morris provides a random act of art to lockdown rest home residents, and mask wearing is now compulsory on public transport, but are Dunedin passengers following the rules? Welcome back. A group which coordinates artists and performers is fighting against the tough times brought about by COVID-19 while entertaining people who are in lockdown. Random acts of art have been popping up across Dunedin, and the woman coordinating the project says recent events with local singer Sophie Morris are making many people happy.
Bringing a wee bit of joy to rest home residents in lockdown. All rest homes are in level 4 lockdown due to the renewed threat from COVID-19. Dunedin-based musician Sophie Morris sings for residents of Yvette Williams Rest Home in Dunedin's Highgate and says it's important to spread the joy of music in these trying times.
And obviously this year has been very different for all of us. Nobody's been untouched by what's been happening in the world. So yeah, it's really a window of opportunity to bring music, to bring performance to places like Yvette Williams, like the retirement villages that we're visiting today, especially on this beautiful sunny day, to bring some music and to connect and share in art.
Today's sing-along is part of a series of events coordinated by Well Productions and Theatre Works, which producer Cindy Diver hopes can bring some fun to a world facing challenges.
We've created a 6-month program where every week something else will be happening, and we're using professional dancers, musicians like the lovely Sophie who sang for us today.
The performance at Yvette Williams was one in a series of shows around Dunedin's rest home facilities. Both Diver and Morris are pleased so many in the crowd were visibly moved by the songs.
Lovely to see an emotional response or just a happy response, but to see people really connect with that music is great.
And then there was this beautiful woman in the front row, because we went in their courtyard, and she was singing along with Sophie, and I cried because there's tears streaming down her face as she's singing along, tears down our face, and it was that sense of how art is such a great way of making people feel positive, amazing thoughts.
Diver says there are many more events planned in the coming months, including more public shows for when Level 2 restrictions are lifted. In Dunedin, the South Today.
It's now compulsory to wear a face mask on public transport as the nation continues to fight the COVID-19 virus. Most in New Zealand is at alert level 2, with Auckland downgrading to what the Prime Minister calls 2.5. Bus passengers in Dunedin acknowledge it's for the greater good.
The new masked reality in the time of COVID-19. As of Monday, anyone aged 12 or over must wear a mask while using public transport across New Zealand. Frequent bus traveller and public transport advocate Alex King says being in a confined space like the inside of a bus can put yourself at risk.
Well, we think it's a good idea to make sure that there isn't an outbreak that's linked to the buses. There is a certain amount of risk about travelling on public transport because you're in a closed and confined space.
Dunedin users were ready to comply with the new rules, with some people masking before the rules came into place.
A friend of mine dropped me off 2 masks, so it saved me from having to go into town and get some. But having said that, I may need to buy a few more just to be on the safe side.
Oh, I've seen 100% compliance, which is I'm amazed at. So far, so good.
And with Auckland going from level 3 to level 2 today, what worries me is how long before it's down here, so might as well wear the mask on public transport and in public.
But I'm glad I do have one now.
You know, it's a bit iffy at the moment because I don't know if there are any cases in the South Island. Still don't know if there are, but I mean, everything helps, you know.
Some say they'd prefer not to be wearing masks, but understand the government's reasons for making them compulsory on public transport.
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not happy about wearing it, but you have to follow the laws.
If it's around, it's supposed to be what we're doing, and yeah, I think so.
I think it's more about educating people that this is the way it's got to be now.
Only those who have a medical condition which prevents them from wearing a mask, or children under the age of 12, are exempt from the rule. Though the government says it'll be taking an educational rather than a punitive approach to the issue. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After many years snapping pictures to post on social media, a Dunedin artist is hosting his first exhibition. His collection of physical photographs are taken from his viewpoint in the wheelchair he's been in following a swimming accident many years ago.
What began as taking photos for Instagram has crossed over from social media to the real world.
The process started on Instagram, where I did that thing that everybody does on Instagram, where you take photos of your food and the tedious things that nobody else actually finds interesting, just to prove that you're alive.
Images in Josh Kennedy's first ever exhibition are taken from how he sees the world, seated in a wheelchair following a spinal cord injury.
I use a wheelchair. I can't move my hands properly, which also fits with the photography as well, as a number of photos would not have ended up the way that they were if I had able-bodied hand function.
There are more than 100 images in the show. Kennedy says it's been a lengthy process, distilling down from thousands of pictures on his social media account, with the help of a good mate who's also a graphic designer by trade.
I have curated down, I think it's something like 3 or 4 years of things that have started to angle towards where I am looking with the way that I can reflect how my eyes see the world.
Josh Kennedy's exhibition An Obstructive World is set to be up at Morning Magpie during September. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern Newsweek. Pupils of Remuir Primary School down south are collaborating with their artist in residence, and a Dunedin dad is set to risk more than chafing for a fundraising event. So catch this after the break. Thanks for staying with us. A painting marathon was held in a Dunedin mall recently to create 501 life-size little blue penguins. The aim is to create a visualised representation of the simple little things which can be done to save the environment.
Dunedin Mayor Aaron Hawkins and City Councillors Sophie Barker and Steve Walker helped out with the painting of 501 little blue penguins at the Golden Centre Mall on Friday. Each of these papier-mâché penguins, made from end-run paper from the Otago Daily Times, symbolises one of 501 simple things we could all do to save the environment.
This is a visualisation of all the hundreds of little actions that we could all be doing tomorrow. That's how many there is that we're not doing that we could be doing.
The idea is the brainchild of author Carolyn Manor, whose book Penguin Kind lists the many actions people can carry out to live more sustainably.
There just isn't enough awareness of all the things that we can be doing, all the tiny, tiny little things that we can be doing that cost us almost no effort. And I think so many people want to be doing more, but they just don't know what to do.
The proceeds of every copy of her book sold in New Zealand will go towards conserving New Zealand penguins, such as the little blue.
The penguin is the indicator species for ocean health, and so therefore scientists have shown that every single action that humans make, from the tiniest action to big ones, will ultimately either benefit or impact negatively a penguin.
The life-size penguins are set to go on a road trip of the North Island in an electric car to communicate the impact of humans' actions on nature. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Southland primary school has been lucky enough to have an artist in residence for 6 months. The artist is helping Remuir primary pupils work together to create a new mural for the school.
A creative grant from the Ministry of Education has allowed an artist to spend 6 months in residence at Remuir School just outside Invercargill. Her job is to guide the creation of a mural which the pupils will be able to look back on with pride.
We're aiming for bright colours, and we're aiming for a proof that the kids have been involved, because it's the kids' mural ultimately, and it's my job to consolidate it all and make sure it looks nice.
The new mural is to replace an old one painted by an artist from the local community. The old mural has since rotted and been pulled down. This time every effort is being made to have pupils of all ages contribute to the project.
We've even had our 5-year-olds on the rollers contributing, so it's been children right across. It hasn't necessarily been our seniors that have pulled it together.
After a lot of consultation with the community, the school board and the pupils themselves, the mural will feature a number of things from the school's past, as well as some outline images of the pupils themselves.
And we did some silhouettes with Jemima in our class, and that's what we have on now, black silhouettes.
It's hoped the mural will be finished by the end of term. In Southland, the South Today.
A Dunedin dad will be going nude for a good cause in September. Every day next month, Julian Cox will be riding his mountain bike up Signal Hill at least 3 times a day in a bid to raise funds for charity.
Dunedin man Julian Cox plans on raising $30,000 for cystic fibrosis. He'll be riding his bike 3 times a day up Signal Hill, climbing an average of 1 vertical kilometre every day for each of the 30 days of September. He says his main motivation is because he has a daughter with cystic fibrosis.
Well, we've received a lot of assistance from Cystic Fibrosis New Zealand, and they're going through a hard time at the moment because of COVID. It means that we can't do the normal fundraising because the cystic fibrosis community is very vulnerable. And it's just a real opportunity to give back some of the things that we've received from the community.
Back in January, he and his wife cycled from Dunedin to Wellington Parliament, towing a coffin in a campaign to have pharmaceutical funding increased.
We've got this new drug Trikafta that's becoming available around the world, and we're really pushing to have it here in New Zealand. It's an amazing drug, and we're keen to see people with cystic fibrosis have access to it, so it's a great time to raise publicity and awareness for getting action on that through Pharmac.
And if people are generous enough, he's promising to ride the final lap up Signal Hill completely starkers.
So the goal is to raise $30,000 for cystic fibrosis, and I've pledged that if I manage to get to that goal with everybody's help, I will ride the last lap completely naked from the bottom of Signal Hill to the top and back down again, including the jumps line. So that should be interesting for everyone concerned.
The Sweat for CF webpage has a number of people raising funds for the charity, including Julian Cox's sponsor page called RIP Kiwi. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. Thanks for watching. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.